Okay, so let's start with creating a skeleton for a model. Cool. In order to start doing it, we need to create a skeleton sub. Cool. And let's put our model into a template view, and let's switch our view to a skeleton. And currently we don't have our skeleton yet, so there's nothing visible. The one important thing, which lots of people I think forgot about, is like when you press the P key, when you have your skeleton selected, that brings the parameters dialog. So that's a window which will help us to manipulate a particular joint's orientations, and also it has some settings for a tool. So in my case, I choose the primary axis X and the secondary axis Y. The primary axis is the axis at which joints will be looking at each other. Do you remember? At one of our previous screenshots, I showed you that the primary axis will be the X and the secondary axis will be Y. So do your settings in your case. Cool. Also, from this dialog, you have an access to all the settings here, like the child compensate and tweak mode and etc, and a little bit more. So we're gonna go back to that window very often. We'll be working, but for now we'll be just we're just gonna close it, okay? And just sure that you have a primary axis X and the secondary axis Y. Cool. So when you enter Python state for a skeleton, there's two modes where it works. They work in the creation mode, which you basically place the joints, create them, and the modify. The modify is used to move already existing joints, reparent them, etc., orient them, change the name. And the create is used for just placing them. So we'll start with create. Another important thing is the joint placement, like the way how you want to place them. The view base means that Houdini will try to find the spot in the middle of your model the best as it can. So for example, we just click here, here, and here, and hit enter, and you will see that our skeleton is actually placed in the middle of our model, you see? Otherwise, if we wouldn't have such an option, we'll need to go and kind of fiddle those joints over there. So sometimes it's a great starting point, but usually often we just need to then slightly and adjust them, okay? So let me select the joints back. Oh, and to select all the joint chain, you just double click on it. And to delete your joints, you right click somewhere outside of the joint and you choose delete section. Cool. All right. So let's start with creating a spine. I know it's a tutorial about rigging a leg, but a spine will be a good example to start with. We're not going to create the controls for spine, we're just going to have some, joints there. So we'll switch the mode to create. We'll have, for this case, we'll have a view-based mode, and we'll start placing some, start joints. So it will be like, I'll be on spine, cool. And when I place them, when you look from the front view, wow, you can see they're actually not really in the middle. And for a spine, we would like to have them exactly in the middle and be in a straight line, kind of, especially from the front view. And they need some tweaking from the side view. So how we can do that? It's pretty simple. First, let's look at the orientations of our joint and see what's happening there. So to see the orientation of the joint, you can select your joint, right click outside and show the handle. Okay, now you can see that our orientation is a little bit screwed up and we need to fix it. Because we want our y-axis to point up for spine, which is going to be this direction. And the x-axis, yes, it's okay, but you can see all our y-axes are kind of messed up, and I will show you now how actually you can fix it. Before you start fixing orientation for your joints, fix the position first. Cool? So let's fix the side position of our joint first, okay? Because that's the easiest. So we'll go to the child compensation option turned on. What does it mean? It means basically it wouldn't move the childs of your joints where you're moving it, when you're moving the parent. So when we're moving at joint 0, now all the joints are moving, right? When you turn on the child compensate, the childs will stay where they are, and only the joint which you're moving will move. Okay, so we'll turn on the child compensate, and this is where our, this is where our spine will start and our hip joint will start as well. Okay, so we don't need to be super anatomically correct in this case. We're just gonna move it a little bit, and from the side view, this is where I would like to have them, let's say. Ah, nice. Now let's go to the front view and let's look here. Now you can go and basically snap your joints, like, you can use a grid snapping or something like that. Well, let's just be a little bit different in this case, and let's bring a parameter window. So now you have here, this is a world transformations in here, the first three, and the second one is a local transformation of a joint. The local transformation, if you don't know, they relation to the parent. So because point 0 is the first joint, you can see that the local and the world is the same. That makes sense. So now to bring all of our joints into a middle, we just need to be sure that their x transformation is equal to 0. And that doesn't have anything to do with their orientation, because we're changing a world, and the world is always aligned with the world axis. So we're just changing x, and you can see they going perfectly aligning in the middle. Fantastic. So now when we have our joints in the perfect lines and perfectly placed, let's start dealing with the orientations of the joint. Cool. And actually, before we start doing it, let's change the name of our joints. So there's a few ways of doing this. You can select the joint and change the name here. We can start it and say spine 1 underscore GNT. So underscore GNT is just a naming convention for joint. The other way to doing this is doing it from the rig tree. When you select your skeleton node and you right click on it and you display the rig tree, you have your hierarchy of your joints. I like to change my joint's name here, so I would just type in spine 2 GNT, and you can use the arrow keys and press the F2, and spine 3 GNT, and let's say here I can just call it a neck GNT. Cool. So that's cool. So here's our skeleton, and we can close that window for now. And let's quickly start dealing with the joint orientation. So when you select our joints, because we have a shell handle turned on, we can see the handle, the manipulator. We can see our joints are completely messed up. So the good starting point in this case is to select your joints, and actually we can select all of them with the holding a shift key and left click on them and right click, and we can just choose here. There's an orient selected joints. Here you go. Cool. So what that did, that tried to orient the joints according to the settings which we have, and it's almost there, because we want the x-axis is nicely oriented, it's looking where it should be looking, but the y-axis is wrong. We want a y-axis to be exactly where the z-axis is. It's very easy fix in this case. I will show you. There's a few ways to doing it. One way is basically to grab your joint, hold the control key, and just rotate it with the child compensate on. That's just gonna rotate the orientation of our joint. Cool. That's actually pretty cool. The other way to do it is to go to your parameter window and just change the rotations here. But it's up to you which option you will like. In this case, because it's just like simple 90 degrees rotation, I'm holding my control key and I'm just grabbing axes. Cool. So that's our spine skeleton. Great. Now let's add a root joint. So I want the root joint orientation to have a world orientation. So this exactly the Z is facing Z, the Y is facing Y, and X is facing Y. X is facing X, sorry. How to do that? It's actually super easy. So we'll go to our skeleton, we select it, we enter the Python state, we are in the create mode, and we just choose the freehand, so we can place the joint anywhere we want, doesn't matter, and we just place the joint here, doesn't matter. And we don't want to place more joints. Actually, we want to place the hip joint, so let's place the hip joint here. So we have 2 joints, doesn't really matter. We will just move them now. So let's select our first joint and let's change it to modify. You can do it just by clicking here or pressing an enter key. And let's change this joint name to root GNT. So this is our main root joint, which basically that's the parent of like a hip and a spine. And let's move this to the position of our spine. But before we do that, just be sure, oh sorry, I left the Python state. Just be sure that it's oriented properly. Oh, it is from straight away. And let's just clarify, let's be sure, yeah, the rotation is 0, 0, 0. If it isn't in your case, if you have some other values, just zero it out with world orientation. And when you've done that, now we can turn on snapping. This is the point snapping. You grab your joint and you just place it there. So our root will be perfectly placed where our spine is. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, we can go and take our hip joint and we can put it in the same spot where is our root, simply by let's just let's say first start with changing a name, GNT, and now if you go and press the P key, and yeah, that's a hip, and we change this local transformation, it will go exactly to its parent's position. So now we have all of those 3 joints in the same spot, and you can see them here. That's super cool. So now we know we have our hip joint selected. Let's orient it as we want to be oriented, okay? So let's go to the front view, and sorry, the side view, and we can orient it in a way that basically the Y, oh, actually, yeah, so we want a Y to face this direction, but obviously we want an X to you know, face it down. So we hold the control key and we just like rotate it like this. Okay, that's fantastic. That's cool. That's it, what we're gonna do in this case. And I just turn off the snapping point. So this is our hip joint. Great. Now, let's quickly create our leg skeleton, just in a very quick, sloppy way. So I will switch to create mode. Well, I had my hip joint selected, so our new joints will be coming out of the hip. And let's just turn off that manipulator, the handle. And let's change the joint placement from the freehand to the view-based. And view-based means that the Houdini will try to keep it in the middle of a model, okay? So this is our up leg, low leg, and ankle somewhere here. Cool. That's fantastic. Now, before we'll create the foot, we just don't want to create the foot by clicking and clicking. Let's switch our joint placement mode to the freehand, and let's go to the side view. Side view. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want to create them in a straight line to matching the z-axis for now, okay? And I will just explain it to you in a second, right? Why? And yeah, so basically I hit enter. Cool. And now if we're gonna go back to the top view, you will see that basically it's a little bit off, it needs some rotation. And I like that my toe and toe end joint being in a one line. And now just to make it align with the foot is super easy. You just select your ankle joint, you show your handle, and you go to the top view and you rotate it. Okay, in this case you can tell, okay, we can't see our foot. Let's just, you know, let's just show us just the foot. You can do it in a few ways. I like to just go and do a clip node, and you can just start doing a little bit of a distance. Oh, just turn off. Okay, the foot, let's just do it when the, sorry, let's just do it 0. Let's just go a little bit up. The foots are gone now. Let's just switch to the below the plane. You see, our feet are here. So yeah, we are going here. We just do a template view, going back to our skeleton. We are still in the Python state. We select the ankle joint, show handle, and now you're not grabbing one of those 3 axes, you're grabbing this one, which is the view one. And nothing is rotating. Why? Because we have a child compensation on, and in this case we want to have it off because we want to rotate all the shoulder. Okay, so now we have all our joints nicely placed in a line, starting from ankle, ending on the toe end. Okay, so let's go up here and let's call our joints properly as we did it in our an example which I showed you at the beginning of introduction. So that's going to be L leg, L up leg. Let's call leg G and T. That's going to be our L low leg G and T, and that's going to be our L ankle G and T, toe L toe G and T, and that will be like L toe and G and T. Cool. So now you can tell, like, okay, now I need to orient the joints, and it's, you know, you can tell it's a little bit annoying to just selecting them just to see our orientation. There's other way to display orientation for all the joints, and that I would like to look at. One way to do it is to display the joint axes for this one particular Python state, and some people like to do it this way. And you can see the axes are really small. You can change them, I believe, in the, you know, in the display settings, the handles. You can just make them a little bit bigger. But there's one issue with it. If you exit your Python state, they're gone. And you know, you enter your Python state in order just to see them. So we would like to have it better way to displaying our axes, to see them whatever time we want to, and just be sure that everything is, you know, oriented as we want to. So, like, independently from being in a Python state, we can do it by using our rig visualizer. Sorry, visualize rig. Actually, that's the original one. Yes. So this is one which is coming obviously with the Houdini, and I'm gonna show you how to modify it to just make it a little bit cooler.